I don't even want to walk with your Ladies Tale podcast.
I'm not even gonna try. I just turned my head. That was like,
you turned your head.
I'm gonna watch this happen slow motion.
When you gonna watch this happen slow motion style as you turn your head away from it?
Yes.
So how are you watching it with your back turned?
Oh, you ain't hear about the eyes in the back of your head?
Oh, so you're a mom now?
Oh God, no.
Right, because only moms have eyes in the back of their head.
I have to be my own mother. I mean, with my narcissism ego, it needs someone to babysit it. So I have to be my own.
What? Does that even make sense?
Josh, don't think hard. Don't think hard. Just keep going. You're not supposed to stop. You're supposed to keep going.
And you write the things?
I write the things.
You write the things? You write the things? You're proficient with the language? Okay. I'm sorry. Okay. I'm Jade, though.
And I'm Winona, and I'm sorry that I laughed at her joke. I mean, I'm sorry that
you laughed at my joke. You're sorry that you laughed at my. Okay, so first you're gonna turn your head away from me, and then you're sorry that you laughed at my joke. Like I don't know. Is this friendship cracking?
Hold on, there was more.
Oh wait, there's more.
I was going to try to rally and be professional, and then I just burst out into laughter at your joke. So I'm sorry that I did that. I'm supposed to rally back to professional.
I don't know if that makes it sound better.
We wrote books.
Or worse. Like, I'm not sure.
We wrote books.
Okay, we were literary life guys with poetry. Some people might call them anthologies, but we do not. Oh, and I thought the book was bad with other life lessons. And I thought being grown up was easy. If only you're making me mess up because I'm still going back to your rallying, pouring coffee, the Widows web series. Well, you get your audiobooks, you can check those out. And you can check out one of my favorite books. Yes, you're not supposed to have faith. Oh, wait. And we have the new 25 hottest indie authors, artists, and Advocate magazine out. Yes. Okay. Yeah, y'all. So it's out and it's like ready to buy and everyone can like rate it and see who made the list this year. Okay, and you can check out one of my favorite books, And I Thought I Did My Journey Alone, where you can find out everything about your ladies on www.andithoughladies.com. But y'all aren't here to hear about me ramble on or Winona try to rally her professionalism.
You see, I'm quiet, right?
You're here to hear from our wonderful guests.
Wonderful guests, would you like to introduce yourself?
Hi, my name is Maed Mariam Thomas. I run a podcast production company and consultancy that's based out of Bombay in India. And I basically make podcasts. I have been working in the podcast space in India for the last 7 years-ish. And I was asked to tell you 3 things that I like or I am obsessed with or not. So one is that I hate raisins. I think they're the spawn of the devil. They're the worst. And if anyone, I think for me, that's my kryptonite. So I'm that person that picks out raisins. So no raisins, Jade and Winona.
Okay. Duly noted.
Just warning you now, if you bring up raisins, it's a very, very difficult subject for me to talk about because I just don't like raisins.
Okay.
The other is that I have to say that I personally, one of my favorite things currently is that I am absolutely in love, obviously, with the show that I make, just like yourselves. I'm so excited to say that I'm also a fellow podcaster and I make an indie music show, which is also called Made in India. And I get a chance to bring musicians to do live sessions in the studio. And for me, it's a real privilege. I'm so lucky that I get to like see these live performances and be a part of like their sort of musical journey. But that's another thing that I'm sort of super excited about. And and my third thing is I'm really excited to be on the show because I had a chance to talk to you, and hopefully one day I'll get a chance to go to Greece with the both of you and go hang out with all your plumber Norwegian friends.
That's
inside joke. Inside joke.
That is hysterical, and I love it very, very much. Thank you for that. Okay, so how did you get started podcasting, like, or being involved in podcasts, especially 7 years ago?
Yeah, actually, it started because I actually come from a radio background. I've started my career as a radio journalist in the UK, and then I left. Basically, I was a journalist there, and when the Conservative government won, I was like, my place here is done. I must leave and go back to the motherland. So then I left, And I continued to work in radio, but I was a little bit jaded. I felt quite creatively stifled on radio, and I wanted to be able to have the opportunity to just kind of do my own thing. And I was freelancing for about a year. And during that year, I kind of got approached to make a podcast, which is where Made in India, the indie music show, sort of came about. And that's sort of my first entrant into podcasting. But I have been listening to podcasts for a really long time. So when I was in college in Wales, I used to work for an archive. And in the archive, they were like digitizing the archives. It's very boring work, but it paid well. Gave me some of that, like, precious money, like in college. And one of the things that you do is that you're sort of digitizing these archives, and it's really sort of boring data entry kind of work. But I would just listen to podcasts all the time. So that's where my love for podcasts sort of began. But my sort of working in the industry kind of happened through someone approaching me to make a show. And then I started working with them and making podcasts. And then I kind of went independent in 2018. And I started making other people's podcasts. So besides my own, people started messaging me saying, "Oh, you make podcasts. Can we also make us a podcast as well? My podcast, yeah." And so then that's how I'd end up making other people's shows, and then sort of working with different sort of creators and brands and platforms. And it's been exciting. Like I'm really enjoying podcasting. Is such a great medium. And I think it's still, compared to a lot of sort of like monopolies in terms of like, video on demand and broadcast, I feel like podcast is so much more sort of open and accessible. It's a bit of a wild west. And so I quite like the medium, and I quite like that it doesn't matter if you are, the biggest celebrity in the world or someone from the most remote part of the world, that you still have a sort of equal opportunity in the podcast world. So it's quite exciting.
Absolutely. How does one produce podcasts? Like, how do you become a production company? What goes into the background work?
So actually, it kind of started out because initially, when I, with Made in India, I was working with another company who kind of partly owned the IP. And then they were kind enough to give me the entire IP because my name was on the show. So this is why they say it's always handy knowing a lawyer and a doctor. So I initially, just keeping my show alive was the most important thing. So what I initially was trying to do was that I needed to find studios in Bombay that would be able to actually record live music. And there are not that many of them. And the most basic thing I would ask them is that, can they mic a drum kit? So if you have a drum kit, can you mic it? Which means that can you record it? And so a lot of studios can't, and so I sort of narrowed it down. And again, I had put together like a little corpus fund with me and my partner, to be able to at least record 4 episodes. And yeah, I kind of started like just, doing a recce of like a bunch of different studios in the city. I also, because I'm a voiceover artist as well, I already had connections. And then based on that, I started like producing my own show myself, which is where other people who I kind of knew from my radio days in Bombay had contacted me saying, "Hey, you make podcasts, can you make mine as well?" And so I would sit down with them, kind of understand what is the show that they want to make, and then just kind of work backwards in terms of like, okay, so you basically need, someone to coordinate with guests. You need someone to do the research about your guests. You need someone to, do the artwork, the graphic design for your episodes. And we need a studio to record it in. We need engineers. So once you start like putting all these like sort of pieces together, and then you start building a team, that's kind of like how it happened. And because I'd already worked I've mainly worked in audio most of my life. So because of that, like I knew kind of like what I think, would be the best kind of interview, because being a host myself, and I've been a radio presenter for so long, I kind of understood, even in terms of just like content, like what's going to sound good, what's the right question to ask. This is why like even like you guys are asking me such really good questions. A lot of people don't like, sometimes what I call the interview faux pas. A lot of the time, sometimes you have these moments where someone would be like, "Okay, so tell us a little bit about yourself," which is such a broad question, right? Like you've specifically actually asked me like, how did you start in podcasting? Why did you, how do you start a production company? Those are very specific. I'm always like, be super specific, which is why when people are like, so tell us a little bit about yourself is so broad. I could be like, so I was born on December 17, 1985. My mother gave birth to me. It was 18 hours of labor. And so I can give you like from A to Z of my life. And I could literally talk here for 30 minutes and tell you about my whole life if you tell me a little about yourself, which is why, like, a lot of the time, and not that I'm being judgmental or anything, like, please don't think that. It's just that I'm so used to interviewing people, you kind of already know what people's answers are going to be. So even the first couple of questions you guys have asked me are so specific that I know that my answer will be this much, or I'm going to be able to articulate myself in this way. So the production company actually started from me trying to keep my own podcast alive. And then people asking me to make their shows, which is where sort of all the pieces of production elements sort of came together. And then obviously I had to know how to distribute a show, which I was lucky enough that in the company I was working with previously, the tech guy who was working there left. And then I basically called him, and as you would, like when you're trying to keep your show alive, you just pull as many favors as you can, ask for help. I always say this, like, don't ever think that you have to do everything on your own or you have to be an expert. So I called up the, sort of tech person. His name is Kuwad. He's a wonderful, wonderful guy, helped me out a lot. He took me like through how to upload my episode onto Libsyn, where it goes, how to check things, like literally did a little tutorial for me. And so I literally uploaded my own episode myself initially. I mean, now, of course, I have a team that handle all these things, and I'm a queen, I go, host my show. But like, it was genuinely, I always say that when you're starting out, you kind of have to pull every favor. You have to like ask, you have to be curious. And if you don't know, then, bring people who do know. And I have to be really, I tell people very honestly, I'm not an audio engineer, but I run a production company, an audio production company. That's because I hire audio engineers who tell me what are the right things to do. So you can still run a company and not have to know everything. So I think that's kind of a lot of things that I've sort of realized in the last like 3 years since I've been running my own company. But yeah, it's not, I will say, it's not easy to run your own company. It's just working happens all the time. Yeah.
Yes, all the time.
People
always.
like, so when did your work week start? It doesn't end.
What do you mean?
It has to end. You have to have downtime.
When people tell me like, so what are you doing for the weekend? I'm like, weekend, end. There is an end. I didn't know that.
Yeah, there's never an end.
What are you doing for the weekend?
Working. That's what I'm doing.
It is all week. It's all week. There is no end.
Yeah, it's all week. And it'll be like, so what are you doing when you go on vacation? I'm gonna be working, but now people know I'm on vacation, so they won't call me. So I'll still be working. Just
there is so this is like something that it's interesting that you're saying this vacation thing, right? Working all the time. Because last year, and this is like after having been running my company for about 2.5 years, last year in like October, November, a friend of mine who runs a music distribution service, he announced on Instagram that they were taking, like his company and him were taking a break for 2 weeks. They're like, hey, we're taking a break for 2 weeks. If you have any, queries, blah, 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 send us an email. If not, then like, we'll get back to you in 2 weeks' time. And I was like, wow, they're announcing, it's like, when you like have to tell, HR, like, that I'm taking leave. It's like he told the world, hi, I'm taking leave. And I was like, who announces like, I'm taking a break, like to the world, right? Especially when your company's running in a certain way. So I was like, let me try this. I didn't announce it to the world, but we told our clients like at the end of 2021 that for 2 weeks, we were going to take a break. And that meant like everyone, that included me, my partner, and my whole team. So they could take time off for 2 weeks because we'd all been working really hard. And it's, people do have vacation days, but I felt like end of the year. And the one thing that I'm so grateful for is all of our clients were like, sure, we'll get all the work done before you guys go. And then we'll see you when you get back. And it was so nice. Like people were so accepting of the fact that like, yeah, you're warning us like over a month in advance so that we can make sure we get all the work that we need to get done before we take leave. And then whatever needs to get done, will get done after, which was kind of nice because we were able to sort of shut off for 2 weeks. I mean, not completely shut off, but yeah, I was able to like actually take a real time out. Yeah.
Oh, that's
I think
amazing.
I did it yesterday.
No,
2 days ago.
We did it like a week and a half ago.
No, 2 days ago. I did when we did the massage. We did 2 massages. Because the first place we went to just put oil on it.
Yeah, it was horrible.
They were like,
it was hard. And I was just like, okay, great. I guess I was ashy. All right.
I got out, I was like, well, my skin is bronze now.
It's bronze. It's nice.
Now I need to get a massage.
Massage needs to have it.
So like, yeah, I found that I was like, I stopped thinking about work, and I was like, this is a
for
weird
like 2 whole hours. It was amazing. We got back We got back in the car and we were like 85 emails. Isn't that interesting?
Emails for days. I sometimes feel like I'm on sort of calls all day. You know, I'm on like back-to-back calls all day. Like today's been a little bit of one of those days. And then by the end of the day, I'm like, did I achieve anything? Have I done any work? Because you're on calls all day, you don't actually get time to reply to an email or do any actual work, which always I feel like is
that becomes your nighttime fun.
Well, so
you're like, I could watch TV, but I have emails.
Fortunately, there's 2 of us, right? So if we need to be on calls all day, you might not get both of us. You might get one of us. And then the other person is like, I'm gonna answer these emails for this hour that you're on this call. Don't worry about it, I got it covered.
So okay.
Exactly.
I heard voiceover actor, but now I hear about how busy you are. So I had a specific question because it's Willette's nurse. It's well known as, oh my God, I just gave myself a new name.
Go, then you give yourself a new name. I was like, what is this name? You should have picked like Ivy or something.
I should have picked Ivy.
She just gave herself a new name, just randomly.
I
think you're just talking about the bourbon that you want to have, the Willette's bourbon that we have like chilling.
What is that? Oh, now I get it. Sorry, I was like really.
I think you're just because it's like Friday. You're like, ooh, Willette's bourbon. I want it so bad. And I
really was thinking about that bourbon. I apologize. I'm not an alcoholic. I swear.
It's Friday, y'all. At least we got the bourbon.
I'm
exactly what she said. It's a Friday. You're allowed.
Yeah. So, well known as narcissism section.
Are you sure it's well known as? It's not.
It's not the bourbon section.
Okay.
Well known as narcissism section is I was just wondering, as a voiceover actor, have you ever considered doing an audiobook for a small amount of money for a long book called Free Falling and Loving It? Just wondering.
Oh wow.
You don't have to answer it. You don't have to answer that question. I thought it was just so funny.
Are we still recording?
There you go. That's it.
No.
The real question is,
do you do audiobooks? And what kind of voiceover acting do you do?
So I have to be really honest. I have not really dabbled in the audiobook space. And we are recording, but you have to also understand I have to be really honest with people. I'm not very shy about. The thing with audiobooks is they don't pay well at all. It's like it's a lot of work for very little money. And I'm telling you this, and I don't know if it's different in other countries, but particularly in India, it's a lot of work in terms of like these are like 15 to 20 hour books. And then you need to be able to so what we say in the audio industry is like one finished hour is usually like 2 hours recording time. So it's a lot of work. So that means that I need to be able to give like literally 30, like for a 15-hour book, I need to have 30 hours available, which I barely have 1 hour available for my life. So to do an audiobook is a lot. And not that I haven't been asked to do audiobooks before, the only issue is that, like I said, it doesn't pay enough and it's not, and my voiceover work isn't my primary source of income. It's something that I just kind of do on the side. And it's always been something I do on the side. So I've done fun stuff. I mean, I've done the usual like sort of ads, like TV ads and this and that, but I've done, a friend of mine who's a sort of voiceover casting guy. I've done like an animated film, like in the sense of where they, not like a really, this is not like huge. It's like a really sweet local one. They were doing translations of it. And then, and so I had to play a character. So I was like some sort of like nerdy guy called Pinto. And then he was like the sciencey guy. So all of us like played different characters. And I've also done some like dubbing work because a lot of, in India particularly, there's a huge sort of voice dubbing industry. So like, because there's so many languages in India, a lot of the time sort of big films that come in get dubbed in multiple languages. So it also happens the other way around. So there was like a TV channel that only like broadcasts rom-coms. And so which is the best channel. And there were a whole bunch of these European films that were being dubbed in English. And I like, so basically, and for that, you get paid based on which character you are. So if you're a lead character, you get more money. If you're sort of a supporting character, you get lesser money. And I've done like an equal measure of both. I've done like, there was one film that was about, do you want to hear this? I don't know if this is.
I want to hear all of it. Oh, look, I'm about to be over here like sipping my tea, like, yes, tell me some more.
So I can't remember the name of the film, but it was a European movie. I think it was a French film. And it was about this woman who was like sort of, she's in love with someone and they're together. And there's a curse in her family that the first guy that they marry, the women marry in the family, the marriage never works out, but their second marriage is their true love. So it's like this curse that sort of runs within the women in her family. And so she's about to get married to the guy that she loves, but she's afraid of this curse that she'll marry him because he's going to be her first husband. And that she's going to lose this, she's going to lose him because of this curse. So she decides to go to some random place in Europe, marry a random guy, and basically, try to like evade this curse somehow. And so in the film, there is like her sister is this sort of like married with kids and whatever, and is this sort of the voice of like reason for her. And I dubbed for the sister's character. So it's quite funny. Like it's a really funny film and it's so wonderful. And you sort of like, and you should watch it and I'll find out the name of it and I'll tell you. But basically in the whole film, she ends up meeting, like she was supposed to get married to a random guy. That guy ditches her when she's about to go to the court or whatever to get the court marriage. So she just picks up a random guy from the airport and then they end up getting married. But then she tries to do all these things to make him like sort of break up with her. And then he's like super in love with her. And then so what happens? Does she marry the guy that she's in love with, or the new guy who, despite the fact that she's doing all these horrible things to him, is still want to be with her? And then like sort of what happens in that. So, yeah, I'm just telling you about
it's an entire like film storyline. Like
I would watch it with subtitles.
Girl, I'm already in love. Like I need to watch this film. Ridiculous. Okay,
so I'm gonna find out like what the film is called, and I'll tell you. But yeah, I just dubbed the English part for I think the sister's character, which is quite fun to do. But it's actually really hard, like because you have to like, even the dubbing, it has to match their lip movement. So you can't like, so even if there's sometimes like if you're translating the French to English and the English word doesn't fit their like lip movement, you have to find like another word or sort of say it quickly or say it slower. So it's like, it's a lot. So when you're dubbing, you're looking at the screen and speaking. So yeah, it's
very interesting. French?
No, I was like, so what was happening is they were dubbing the French film into English. And so this particular studio that was doing it had called me because I'd done some other work for them. And then, but yeah, like I said, like voiceover, like unless it's advertising, because advertising money is where the money's at. So that kind of stuff like does, so even like a 30-second, 1-minute ad, you can get pretty decent money. But dubbing and doing like audiobooks doesn't really pay that well, which is why, like I said, like I run a business, but this is like the voiceover stuff isn't like my primary source of income.
Okay, so how did your radio personality? First of all, you had a radio persona in the UK. Also, I got to do a 3-part question. You had a radio persona in the UK.
Well, known as
how did that persona like move over to like help in the production area? I think you answered that one already. You might have. And then number 2, weather. How did you go from like India to Wales? So cold. So cold. And how do you adjust with that? And then last.
Yeah, 2-part question.
Culture and food. So I'm keeping that broad. Just tell me about like differences in culture and food. There we go. I'm done.
So the first is that so there was a reason why I love radio. A couple of things was that I grew up in the 80s and 90s, and I used to have like a boom box that I used to have like blank cassettes that I used to like record half-eaten songs from the radio on my blank cassette. So I grew up with a radio, like, being a really big part of my life. And I didn't realize it till much later on when there was, can't remember which year it was, but there was like the Mumbai floods. And during that time, like there was no internet, no electricity, nothing. And we were kind of like sitting around in our house. And the only thing that worked was my mom's like battery powered radio. And someone somewhere was broadcasting. And then I realized that when the apocalypse hits, that I will still have a job in radio. So it was one of these things where I wanted to sort of do radio. And at that time when I was in Wales, I did my bachelor's in Cheltenham. I did in advertising, and I did my master's in journalism in Wales. And I specialized in radio because I really did love the audio medium a lot. And one of the things was that I wanted to sort of continue to do journalism and radio journalism. And I was working for a community radio station in Wales. So I studied, and then there was a 2-year work visa. So then I was able to work there as a journalist and a news editor for a community radio station. And like I said, like I decided to like move back. And the problem in India is that private commercial radio stations can't do news. Only public radio stations can, which is like the government-owned radio station. It was very weird. And so I was working, just as a radio presenter. I used to do like a request show for an English station in Bombay. And I love radio as a medium because the immediacy of it is like, it's such a buzz. Like you literally would just like push up a fader and you're live on air, The difference with podcasting is that you have the ability to basically the luxury of time. I can take time to record this and edit it and add sound design and all these like other things that you can sort of put together to create, something and then release it. So I feel like with radio, it's a real buzz because of like the fact that you can just be live and it's just like, oh my God, the whole world can hear me right now because you just tune into a frequency and you can hear my voice. And then with podcasting, it was different because I had the ability to like take time and make something like really precious and like really work at it so that it's a nice little neat thing. And yeah, so that was, sorry, did I miss? Oh, you said cold.
Yes.
It is really cold. So I have to be really honest. I love cold weather. I do come from the south of India, which is super hot and very humid, but I love cold weather because I don't like sweating. So the colder I am, the happier I am. So I like cold. I do like cold weather. So that's my thing. So if I could live in the hills, in the Himalayas or something, I'd be very happy. So I do love cold weather. The only problem with Wales is it's like, it's not just the cold, it's like rain. And it's just like, it's like muggy rain that's just like, not very nice.
It's like
How is it like a muggy
It's like
rain?
you live in like a gazpacho without any seasoning. Cold soup that just keeps dripping on your head. So like we do a book tour in the UK every year in July. So we get off the plane, it's like 100 degrees here, and the plane lands, and then we go up north, and occasionally there's flurries in the morning. Who would snow in you?
Why am I packing a coat in July? Like that makes me sad on the inside.
But I mean,
it is. And it's very different here in India because sort of July, August time is monsoon weather. So it's just rain and rain. So like I'm used to the rain like here, but it's torrential downpours for like 2 months and then you're done with the rain. It's like summer and rain. That's it. And then you get slightly cold weather depending on which part of the country you're from. So yeah, I love the cold, not the rain. The food is different because again, I come from South India. So like our cuisine's a little different. And my thing was that like, you kind of go to, just like you have mentioned, off mic, off the record, whatever you call it, that, when you go to Greece, you had a chance to get introduced to feta. I guess the difference was that I got a chance to really enjoy, just really basic food, lots of ham and cheese and bread. And
oh my goodness. Yes, ham and cheese and bread. That's amazing. I love ham and cheese and bread.
I do really love like a full English breakfast, or I love when they do the like Yorkshire pudding and gravy and all that. It's so nice. Like I do like that food, but obviously I also do love my home food,
Right.
my
Absolutely.
It tastes good.
so for
That,
me,
yeah,
like
yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
you can't, but you'd like, I knew that I'm not permanently living there and stuff like that. So like, when I come back to India, I get a chance to experience my hometown home food. Like, so I like, especially when I go to Kerala, which is my home state, I get to spend time with my grandma who makes me amazing food. And
Yep.
so,
Yep.
yeah.
There's nothing like it. There's nothing like grandma's food. Okay, so where can people check out all your podcasts, all the things that you do?
So super simple. It's madeinindia.in. That's my website. And it's spelled Maed because my name is actually May, M-A-E. And actually my grandfather named me May. So I thank you, Grandpa. He was either a huge fan of like Mae West, or he was in Hong Kong for a long time and he knew someone called Maze or something like that. So my name is May. So MAE, Made in India. That's madeinindia.in, and it's Made in India on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, everywhere you can follow us. But thank you so much. It's been so nice talking to you too. You're lovely.
It's been lovely to have you
Oh,
on.
this is
We
so-
really appreciate it. Oh, with the heart. That's so
We
sweet.
never got a heart.
We never got a heart before. So I'm
That was
excited.
amazing.
I'm really excited. Okay,
Hearts.
I'll go ahead and wrap us up.
Thank you.
Before we start like dashing over the heart all over again. All right. You can find out everything your ladies are doing on www.andithoughladies.com. While you're there, take a moment, go to the middle of the page, see the charities we'll probably support. You can support them also. We thank you in advance for that. Just remember, y'all wisdom is all around you if
You're open to finding it and accepting it. Peace and love, you guys, from Will Nona
and Jade. Bye bye. Oh yeah, thanks for listening.